He was previously the guitarist for the Scorpions and UFO and has been leading his own band since 1980. Now he's releasing his second live album in a year. Our guest this week is Michael Schenker on the VVN Music Podcast. Hi, and welcome to episode 34 of the VVN Music Podcast. I'm Roger Wink, and our guest today is guitarist Michael Schenker. This is the second time in a year that we've talked to Michael, who spent time early in his career as the guitarist for the Scorpions and UFO, but since 1980 has had a very successful solo career. In June of 2016, we talked with him about his live release, On a Mission, live in Madrid, with his band Temple of Rock. And now he has another live release, Michael Schenker Fest, live in Tokyo. This time he has brought together three singers who were previously with the Michael Schenker Group, Gary Barden, Graham Bonnet, and Robin McAuley, for an evening of favorites from throughout the band's history. We talked to Michael from his home in Brighton, England. Thank you for calling. It's a pleasure.
Hey, you're welcome.
You know, when we talked, I think it was 9 months ago, you were releasing your Temple of Rock live album, and now here we are again with a new live set. Are live recordings the way that you really enjoy working at this point in your career?
Well, you know, by the way, did you know that the live On a Mission in Madrid, the live recording, the Temple of Rock, actually won an award in Germany for best sounding DVD, and also won an award just now in Japan for best sounding DVD. So that was a good one. And, you know, this happened, this live recording, it just came out of the blue because, you know, it's like 2 years ago when actually the Temple of Rock was touring, was offered to tour Japan with, there was a promoter's idea to have Graham Bonnet open up for for Temple of Rock, and have Graham sing a couple of songs. And that's when it clicked in my head. So I went like, wait a minute, I have been doing, you know, I'm performing the most popular of Michael Schenker music all these years now, you know, without the original singers. It would be fantastic if I could get something together here, like at least the MSG 80s time, you know, like the Gary and Graham and Robin. And so it was an idea, and, you know, we asked and they were all happy to do it, and all I needed to do find the musicians, which I found the perfect match with Steve Mann, who was connected to McAuley and McAuley Schenker times, and Chris Graham and Ted McKenna, who did the original Assault Attack album with Graham singing, and they were also the original After Cozy Power rhythm section for Gary Barden. And so here we have, you know, that really unique lineup, and especially at a time like this, it's unbelievable, you know, it's like full cycle, it's like, and you know, like, it's like Budokan, basically, you know, it's the excitement and everything, and I'm so glad that I pre-financed and made the effort. I knew it had to be recorded because Budokan never got, you know, there was never a DVD of it, just an audio recording. So having something like that is very, very great. And especially the timing of it. It's really good because it's the third part of my life. It's celebration time. You know, I'm celebrating the era of handmade rock and you know, and basically rock music, you know, in general. And so many people are dying, and so, you know, it's just like to keep supporting that, and my main focus has been since I was, you know, since I heard Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Black Sabbath, you know, doing that sound, this sound, you know, that's when I knew what I wanted to do, and from then on, you know, when I was 17 years old, it's the focus, well, actually started when I was 15, the focus on the art of lead guitar playing that wasn't understood in Germany, and it wasn't really understood around the world except for a very special, you know, a group of people, and basically, you know, that was the focus. And then when I was 17, with pure self-expression, I stopped listening to music and I stopped copying, and so that's what I did all of my life, and at this point, and going through the three stages, creating in the 70s what others copied in the 80s, and then in the middle years, I, just experimented and learned about life, and then since 2008, being back in the in the front and really enjoying, being on stage and playing. And, when I got, we had offered to play, a Loud Park. Loud Park is a festival in Japan. And we got offered to headline the closing day. And I said, well, who's doing the first day? They said the Scorpions. I said, sorry, I can't do it. They probably set me up. I don't trust them. I don't trust Fudo. I'm staying away from him as far as I can. And so I declined. But my other promoter found out about it and immediately offered us the Michael Schenker Fest, a tour, a Japan tour, and Osaka, Tokyo, and Sapporo. And basically, when I heard that Tokyo basically sold out overnight, I went like, wow, this is going to be special, and that's when I decided. I knew I had just released a DVD, and just not even a year ago, but I couldn't just, I had to do it, it had to be done. And it's different, it's not Temple of Rock, it's not Herman or Francis, it is different era. And, at my age, I better, bring up, show what is still worth to be shown. And, and especially I'm still preserved, I'm fresh, I'm not worn out from all of this touring and touring like the commercial bands did all these years. And, I kept it a while more in the quieter area. And I guess it's the beginning and the end where I need to be present, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going full power forward as long as I can.
Yeah, I don't like hearing when you say it's the beginning and the end, because there's probably a lot of time left to do a lot of different things. You mentioned the Budokan album, and then you also had a live album in 2010, I think it was, with the Michael Schenker Group, also done in Japan. Is there something that you think resonates with the Japanese audience with your music?
Well, first of all, Japanese audience, we never made it to Japan with the Scorpions or UFO, so it was a build-up. It became an explosion by the time I showed up with Cozy Powell and the Michael Schenker Group in 81, which became the Budokan album. But the world around, my hardcore fans, they all understand the art of lead guitar playing, and that's my focus, and especially with pure self-expression. In Japan, there are more people who understand it, and they have actually kept me alive in my middle years when I was experimenting. Experimenting meaning I was playing a lot of crazy instrumental music that had no commercial place whatsoever and could only be enjoyed and understood by people who understand, the art of lead guitar. And there is a lot of people in Japan who do understand, and they kept me alive and like Japan. There are other, of course, the hardcore fans around the world, But after all these years, now it's becoming almost equal everywhere. We did the Temple of Rock in Spain. It was crazy, it was unbelievable. And, the next record I'm going to do if I make another live recording, I'm going to do it in the UK, where everything started for me, and maybe I make another one in the States, who knows? But it looks like now that, with my energy and how the world is evolving and the cycles are closing and the smaller meets the eye and everything has its assignment and its place at different timings, I can feel that this is a time, where I'm back and doing what I'm doing, like after 40 years of AC/DC, I think the people are ready for something deeper and to understand more than they used to, even in Germany, etc., etc. And so there's a lot of new people, there's China, there's Russia, and all of those. They just only started basically like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And, there is a lot, I'm talking about pure self-expression. And pure self-expression is, you open up yourself and you let colors out that only exist in yourself. And people who are able to do that opening up and share it with the rest of the world, they always, let fresh air into the whole thing. And that's what I'm doing, putting fresh air in stagnant trends or in worn out trends and stuff like that. And, if you draw your creativity from the spirit, from within, from the infinite well, you always discover some fresh colors that haven't been around. And, also, as trends die, people, trends make people blind. And there's a lot of people who follow trends that don't even know what they're following, and it's always the same. But when it wears out, then eventually, people pay attention to something that didn't maybe not stick out that much before. And because of time and years of development and digesting and learning and so on, people can see it. Once the trend is finished, people can see things differently as well. And it's very interesting because it changes everything around. If you, for instance, this whole thing, the whole 50 years of rock music, if you play that again in 600 years from now, it will be perceived completely different because it has no attachment, there is no trend, there is no reference point. It's just what it is. And you're not going to be able to be biased or anything. You just take it as it comes. And that's my point. And so I think we are in a similar place at this point that I started unconsciously in the first part of my life. I can now finish consciously. By finish, I mean, it doesn't need to be finished by tomorrow, many, many more years. But this is just for me, since 2008, it's like being back in my position and carry on doing what I started.
I saw that you have at least one more show with this same group coming up. I think it's in August, possibly at a rock festival in Germany. Any plans for any other shows?
Yeah, it's a co-headline with Vince Neil. And the funny, since the trailer is out, my fan base is it's getting bigger by the day. It's like unbelievable snowballing. I mean, we're getting offers from bigger venues. There's a guy in America who is able to get us a 30 shows in 40 days, and on a bigger scale, bigger venues, etc. But we have to wait until after the winter and start next year, February, March. We have October. We get offers from the UK, from Europe, and we have a few more headline shows that are coming up that I cannot talk about until they're confirmed. And it's just it's crazy. It's just like, I didn't know it was going to be possible because it's a bigger undertaking. You've got 3 singers and it's just, so much more to coordinate, but it seems to be working. And I think since Sweden Rock, which is already a while ago, we found the momentum with the organization and everybody involved to understand, what we're doing. And it seems to be, becoming like more and more able and possible to put it all together.
The band that you're using, or that you used for that show, had Ted McKenna on drums and Chris Glenn on bass, who were both from your early and mid-'80s Michael Schenker group. I don't know if they ever played together. The timeline kind of has them. Maybe one started when the other left. But how was it playing with those guys again?
Fantastic. Chris, actually, I've played with Chris Glenn a few times in the past. And, once I had the rhythm section, Chris Slade and Chris Glenn together, playing MSG songs, UFO and everything. And, I had so many different lineups. Chris with Pete Holmes, the American drummer, and all sorts of combinations, But this is the unique combination because it connects everybody with everything, because you have this whole 10 years where each person is connected with each one, and especially the rhythm section, with the Assault Attack and the Michael Schenker group with Gary Barden, and then Steve Mann, who was from the Michael Schenker group. It's so unique put together. I mean, then it came out that way. It's just somehow you cannot insist on having it like that, but it worked out that way.
I wanted to talk just a little bit about the different singers that you have with you. I know that Gary Barden has been with you on and off over the years. How did you and Gary first get together?
Well, Peter Mensch, after I left the Love Drive tour, and after I opened the doors for America for the Scorpions, and I wanted to do something smaller, and when I wanted it and what I wanted, and experiment with music. That's why I created MSG, and the black and white guitar marks that era. Basically, I wasn't able to do anything small because Peter Mensch immediately followed me around, who was doing AC/DC at the time, and he wanted to do big business with me. The first thing he wanted to do was put me together with Ainsley Dunbar and Sammy Hagar, and then he sent me over to Aerosmith, and then it was just crazy from one thing to another. The next thing I knew, I found myself doing flying to Boston because Steven Tyler is sick, and Joey Kramer and Tom Hamilton were available to do my solo album, and so I went to Boston, rehearsed with them. And so somebody, I guess, called up Steven Tyler and said, "Hey, you better get well soon. Michael Schenker is stealing your rhythm section." And but that happened. That actually happened. And Steven Tyler got well again, and they carried on. But Gary Barden was a guy that I somehow Peter gave me a tape with some singers, and one of them was Gary. And I love his voice. I love his voice because I love it on the mid-range. I made one mistake with Gary on the Build to Destroy album when we actually produced ourselves with an engineer who was not qualified really to be our engineer, but came with a house. I pushed Gary too high, and he doesn't sound good up high. And so in the mid-range, he has got a fantastic vibrato. He has a very warm mid-range sound and very, very, very beautiful melodies he's singing. And so I always like his voice when he when he sings the way he sounds best. And that's what I actually was able to capture again when I did the reunion album In the Midst of Beauty with Gary and Simon Phillips on drums. And so that is Gary, and we did this. There was a lot of different possibilities. We already started with Danny Canassi from Montrose and Billy Sheehan on bass. That was our first lineup. After that was before the Tom Hamilton and Joe Kramer. But like I said, I never wanted to do anything big. I wanted to do something out of the limelight. I had enough. 23 years old I was when I did the Stranger in the Night, and I left, and I tasted the success, the fame, all to its highest. And I was able to make a fair decision if I wanted to be up there or if I wanted to, be not under pressure and follow, be part of the rat race to chase something that isn't there. Basically, I knew, I did it. There was no need for me to join Aerosmith, Ozzy Osbourne, or Ian Hunter, or any of those people to do the same thing over. I already knew. It's something I didn't know and I didn't have experience was to experiment with music. And so that was the time in my middle years what I wanted to do, and that's what I decided to do, and that's why I put together MSG. It was nothing to do to compete with anybody, or never really ever would even come to my mind to compete in music. I mean, music is an art. You don't compete with music. And the people who do, they're in a different place. That must be the rat race, and the trend, and they are copying the trend to get something that the trend promised, that is the fame and the money and all of that stuff. But the true artist can live under the bridge and still be happy, and that goes for me, basically. But I wanted to have those middle years and to experience that I want to do it the way I see it, without chasing something and without being directed by money-making gobble machines. I just want to, I'm a purist. It's pure self-expression. You don't really fit into money gobble machines. They're not interested in purists. They're just interested in money-making trends. And so anyway, that's not what I wanted. And so I did what I wanted, and that kept me satisfied, and I got it out of my system. And then 2008, I was ready to attack. Basically, I wanted to be on stage. All of a sudden, I was full of energy to be back in the limelight. And however that happens, maybe more than meets the eye. But I just do my part. I'm in a train that goes somewhere. I'm in my compartment doing my part, but sometimes you cannot really necessarily understand why you're doing what you're doing. But later in life, I can now look back. I can see very clear what happened, and it's very interesting.
The other person you have on here, the second one, is Graham Bonnet, and he only recorded one album with you and actually only played one show before a rather unfortunate incident. Not even a show. 15 minutes. It was like we come on stage, we play, I look to the right, and the singer was gone. That was it. That was it. 30 years later, we meet again, that was it. There was only an album, and I don't even know if he sang any note. I think we started off with an instrumental, and I don't even know. I think he came on stage, maybe he sang something, and then maybe I played a solo, and I looked to the right, and he was gone. Did you have to scramble to continue the tour? What did you do as far as the vocals goes?
What we did, we asked, that same night, we asked the people, the audience, if they want us to continue, and they all went, yeah, and then we had the Rhythm Festival headline coming up, so we asked Gary back, and then Gary finished the tour. But that was also Peter Mensch's idea. He wanted to do big things with me. He was looking for me. He was managing AC/DC at the time, and he basically came up with all these different people. And him and Cliff Bernstein, they wanted me to make the next record with Matt Langer. And I said, no, I don't want to sound like AC/DC. I want Ron Nevison. And so we took Ron Nevison and made that album. And then he was sending us over to Japan with Cozy Paul Raymond, and Chris Glenn, and this like a super group. And that was the first time I appeared in Japan, and it was amazing. It was like Beatles, it was unbelievable. And then the second MSG album was not even mixed, and the people were already singing all the songs. And it wasn't even released yet. And so we came back from Budokan, and then Ron Nevison played us the mix, and then Cozy Paul was very unhappy with the mix, and then, I don't know, somehow we lost Nevison, and then I ended up mixing the live album, Budokan, with his engineer, and it turned out pretty good. And so, but that was basically, then Peter Mensch, he wanted next level singer, he'd Coverdale, we had Coverdale, and Coverdale wanted us he wanted Cozy Powell, Chris Glenn, and Michael Schenker to join Whitesnake, and I said, well, why don't Coverdale join MSG? And so it never happened, of course, and then I said, well, let's go for Graham Bonnet, and that's how we got Graham Bonnet, and then, and then we had to go back to Gary Barden, and then eventually Peter Mensch and I, we departed, and then we did Build to Destroy, which I pushed Gary a bit too high, and we had the wrong house engineer, and as soon as, I was free from Peter Mensch, the next person comes up, finding out David Krebs, who was doing Aerosmith, and and now he's hunting me down and wants to do business with me, and so I never actually got to escape from those guys. And then in '91, a limo driver is telling me, Michael, I never got paid for live gigs until '91, and limo driver says to me, do you know that people are ripping you off left and right? I said, no, what do you mean? I'm happy. I have, I have my art. I have a roof over the head. I have to eat, and I have everything. But then I kind of still thought about it. I went to myself like, what if all these people are ripping me off all this time? What am I doing with them? Why am I even being with them? Why not just do things on your own? I'm sure I can make one record that can provide me food for one day. I can probably sell one record or two or three a day that gives me what I need, And so I made the Thank You album, and I traveled through America. Took my bags and my guitars and went on a Greyhound bus and a public Greyhound bus and traveled 10,000 miles and knocked on all radio stations and 80% open and played my record. And that Thank You album, the first one, that actually became a therapy music for AIDS patients. And so after my 10,000 miles through the States, I come back home, I was rich. So I have now realized, that compensation with the limo driver, that money that all of a sudden was piling up in my bank account was the same money that other people were putting in their pockets and telling me, Michael, there is not enough money to pay you. It's just unbelievable. For the next 15 years, I had a house in Mexico, one in Scottsdale, one in Phoenix. I had a recording studio. And for the next 15 years, I just, did have my fun. I was doing everything at the time. Deep Purple asked me to join in '93. The Scorpions asked me to tour with them, help them out in Japan and the Mid-East, the East Bloc. And Phil Mock came and visited me in Los Angeles and completely sick and paranoid and completely destroyed the UFO and asked me if I would help him to rebuild UFO. And I said, if you give me 50% of the name so that the name is safe and you can't destroy it again, and we have the original lineup with Ron Neverson included, and we sell the record on the road. I want to show you something that I have just experienced, with my Thank You album, and you will understand something. And so we all agreed, and we made the album. Everybody was happy. The Walk on Water worked out fantastic, it seamlessly. 17 years in between, we never felt as that there was anything missing. If Strangers in the Night just happened just the year before, and here we are with Walk on Water, and then the tour became the fifth best-selling tour in '95, the Walk on Water tour. And I guess things went too well for Phil Mock, and after 3 months, he didn't want to sell the record anymore. He lost control, and he wanted to be in charge, or at least he thought he used to be in charge, and I guess somehow he felt disturbed. He just didn't want to sell the record on the road anymore. I said, okay, so in that case you're breaking the agreement, and let's forget about it. And if you change your mind, let me know. And then I ended up, doing. By the way, actually how we were able to make a record with Ron Neverson and Walk on Water was based on a Japanese company was offering me a really big record deal for MSG to make a record, and I said, if you can give me an identical, if you can give me 2 deals, one for MSG, one for UFO, identical, I will do it. And so the deal was for them in Japan, and I was able to sell the rest in the world by myself. And so I, instead of making an MSG record first, I did Walk on Water, do this UFO thing. And then Phil broke the agreement, and then I made the MSG album, also with Ron Neverson, with a Swedish singer, Lee Sandin, and that was written in the sand. The album was called, with Barry Sparks and Shane Garales, the Ingrid Malmsteen rhythm section, and so on. And so and then at the same time in '93, also Deep Purple asked me to join. And so everything, it would just continue, people showing up, but at least I was free. I had no manager, and I was able to do what I wanted when I wanted, and and that went on and off with UFO until 2002. Phil called me up and said, Mike, because at that point I had enough of them, and he called up and said, Michael, I need to work. I need to name UFO back. And I said to him, okay, Phil, you know what? You can have that name back for free, and God bless you, and I'm glad to be free and away from you guys, and that was it. And so since then, Phil, Andy, and Paul Raymond, they are the proud owners of a brand name now, and I guess they're happy with that.
I just had to ask you, the last time that we talked, you said that you were working on a new Temple of Rock studio album for 2017. Is that still going forward?
Yep. Yeah. But the thing is, I never knew that it would drag, that the promoters would need like a half a year or maybe even a year to promote a tour, And so what it looks like now, first of all, I'm realizing as time goes on that, we just only released the Temple of Rock album. It's still ringing in my ear, the 4 years of touring with them, 2 live DVDs and 2 studio albums. So I think, 2-year gap is a much better idea to make it, kind of be more wanted again, because it is just still too current. And I want, the third album is going to make Biggie stand on its own feet, and Temple of Rock is its own entity and has got enough classics by then. And we are, I'm sitting together with record companies figuring out what should happen next, because that's just the momentum of this Michael Schenker Fest is just dragging. It just kind of takes so much longer, and it only just started. You can't just cut it off. And so I probably end up doing more than one thing at the same time, but we also don't want to have too much product out at the same time. And so we are figuring out, there are various different ideas how we can tie it all together and how to make everything work. And Boogie keeps calling me, Michael, when are we doing the next record? I said, Boogie, wait, we're trying to figure out how to do this. And now I'm convinced that 2018 is a much better idea for that.
Michael Schenker's new album, Michael Schenker Fest, live in Japan, is available now. We'll be back next week with another edition of the VVN Music Podcast. Remember that you can hear the VVN Music Podcast via iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Libsyn, and the VVN Music website. For the latest news on the veteran artists of rock, pop, soul, country, folk, and blues, go to vvnmusic.com. If you have any comments or questions about the website or this podcast, please send them to vvnnetwork@gmail.com. Our theme music is performed by Yahar. This program was released on March 27, 2017. The VVN Music Podcast is a production of the VVN Network, copyright 2017.